in Uganda, East Africa. Mzungu, you are American? Mzungu, of course, means white person, and the locals were talking to me. Yes, I am American. Mzungu, why are you out after dark? It is dangerous for you to be out after dark. Bad people do bad things to you. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, is this the warning of protection? Or is this you telling me what's about ready to happen to me because you are the bad people? And I don't know which way it is. And then they tell me they're going to take me home and make sure I get home okay. And at this point, I'm so far in it with these guys that I just look at them and I say, okay. And they literally escort me back to my compound where I'm staying because they know it is dangerous for me to be out after dark. I put myself in a dangerous place, made foolish decisions, and ignored the warning signs. From the very first day that I got to Uganda, I was told, do not be out after dark. It is not a good thing for you. And it's not like I didn't know. The equator runs through Uganda, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, all year long. But I went to a soccer game. I was looking for some friends, and I put myself in a dangerous spot. And maybe that's happened to you before as well. You put yourself in a bad situation because you ignore the warning signs or the wise counsel that other people have told you, and in the end, you end up getting burned. And this series is all about wisdom and different ways to apply wisdom to our life, and today we're embracing that by talking about anger. And before we get into anger, we want to talk just a little bit about wisdom versus foolishness. Anybody can gain wisdom, and it doesn't depend on how smart you are. Proverbs 1:7 tells us that fools despise wisdom. So, no matter how smart you are, you can choose wisdom or you can choose foolish decisions. Psalms 119 verse 11 tells us, I have hidden your word, put the Bible into my heart that I might not sin against you. Foolish decisions can happen in so many areas of our life, especially pertaining to anger, and that's our focus today. And the big idea is that anger feels powerful, but if left unchecked, it will burn you in the end. So, what does the Bible have to say about how we can be wise in our anger? A lot. We're going to look in the book of Proverbs here in just a minute. Proverbs is written by one of the wisest guys who ever lived the earth. And it's a bunch of sayings and it's a bunch of instruction of how to live a wise life. So Proverbs 29:11 tells us that fools vent their anger, but the wise quietly hold it back. Later on, 15:18, in that same book in Proverbs, a hot-tempered person starts fights. A cool-tempered person stops them. And finally, Proverbs 14:29, people with understanding control their anger. A hot temper shows great foolishness. Now, one thing that's important to note here, nowhere does it say, if you feel angry, you're a bad person. You are doing what God does not want you to do. That is not written in here. It is all about how we handle our anger that leads to wisdom or foolishness. But the idea here is very clear. Those who are foolish can't control their anger, stir up conflict, and are quick-tempered. Those who display wisdom bring calm, are patient, and have great understanding. Anybody in this room, no matter how young you are or old you are, how many degrees you have, no matter what your job is, you can display wisdom or foolishness. And if we can just be honest about anger for just a minute, there might be an initial draw. It is a justified action. It seems like it's no big deal. I just raised my voice at my wife, at my kids, just one time. It's not a big deal. It's not like it's going to happen every single day. That coworker, that person that I was talking to, they clearly deserved whatever I said to them. If that other person wasn't such an idiot, and the justification for anger begins. I was listening to a pastor once, and he was retelling his story of how he ended up cheating on his wife. And he said, it all started when I went to a fast food restaurant. I told them I was getting water, but I went and I filled my cup up with Sprite instead. And everybody looked at him, and they were so confused. And he said, the justification of a lie became a habitual lifestyle. And it didn't matter how big the lie was or how big the action was. I got really good at justifying my behavior to myself. What started with Sprite ended with an affair because of his justification of his actions. Playing with fire long enough, playing with anger long enough will eventually burn you. I learned this lesson in college, not with anger, but with actual fire. For the record, I am not telling anybody to do what I'm about ready to tell you I did. This is not a good decision to make. But I had friends, and they taught me how to juggle fire. And as a 19-year-old, I was like, this is really cool. And so we would spread out the coals, and they would teach me how to quickly pick one up, juggle it, and then we would start playing volleyball back and forth with hot coals from a fire. Really cool back then, not really smart now. But I think you already know what happens. You play with hot coals long enough, and eventually you're gonna get burned. Yes, exactly. The coals are going to spray onto your face, or it's going to stay on your hand for too long, and it burns. And that's exactly what happened, and that's exactly what can happen with anger as well. Play with fire long enough, and you will eventually get burned. Not just you, but the people closest around you as well. And you may say to me, well, you don't know, my anger is justified because that person did, he said, she betrayed me because, and I don't know the reason why. I do know that the anger exists in all of us. Sometimes the reason comes because of hardships and storms that we experience in life. Storms reveal our foundation. Storms reveal our foundation. Is it built on Jesus? Is it built on wisdom? Or is it built on foolishness? And sometimes the biggest storm isn't the one around you, it is the one inside you. Now, ever since getting married, I have struggled with anger. My wife is sitting right down here on the second row. She's great. If you know her, you would agree. But when I was in my 20s, I went all around the world. I was single. I did whatever I wanted to do. And then you give that up to live in a tiny apartment with a person every single day where there's no escaping that person, and friction starts to exist and it starts to build up. And so I have struggled with anger, and that's carried over to with my kids as well. A couple of years ago, I made a decision that I thought was going to be really great. Dad of the year. We moved into a new place and we put all of the girls in the biggest room in the house. All three of them were going to share one room. And to make it super cool, bunk beds, but not just bunk beds, triple bunk beds, floor to ceiling of bunk beds. I thought this is going to be awesome. They even made the bottom bunk bed their clubhouse where they would read and do activities and play games and play crafts. And I was like, this is going great. Until they started picking on each other because they can't escape each other. And so if you're a parent, you know, eventually you just hit your limit and you're over it. So we had one of those days, they're picking at each other, and they're fighting, and they're arguing, and they're picking at each other, and the oldest one gets my frustration, and she gets my anger because she is right in front of me. I don't remember what she said, but she said something that set me off, and so I'm talking to her, and I say, this is it, we're done, there's no more, stop it, it's over. Do you understand me? Good. Now, is there anything that you need from me? Yes. What is it? And she looks up at me. Grace. I had no idea what to do. Like, I didn't even know how to respond. I just walked out of the room because of what she said, and I felt like pierced because that's when I knew my anger became foolish in the direction of my 7-year-old daughter, and it got out of line in that moment. Play around with fire long enough, and eventually you will get burned, or the people closest to you. I have a friend down in Johnson City. He's a former roommate of mine from college. He's a campus pastor now. I listen to his sermons from time to time. A couple of weeks ago, he said, what controls the root determines the fruit. I love that phrase. What controls the root determines the fruit. And in that moment with my daughter, what was controlling the root was not wisdom. It was not Jesus in my life. It was anger and frustration that came out at her. What controls the fruit in your life? What is the root? What kind of fruit is your life producing? The root, as we know, goes a lot deeper. And in our family, we have a little garden in the backyard. It's great. It's awesome. We all get excited about it. But gardens start with just a teeny tiny little sprout. This is how our garden started, and eventually through a lot of work and patience and time and watering and sunshine, you get something that resembles a garden, which is what we have now, and it's great. We love looking at how tall the corn is getting. The blackberries are just about ready to turn and ready to be picked, and it's awesome. But earlier this month, we took a couple weeks, we went down to Tennessee to go visit family, and we left the garden by itself, and this was over the 4th of July. It feels awesome out there today, but maybe you remember 4th of July and how hot it was outside. It was insane. And so we get back, and what controls the root is sun, 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 and more sun, and more sun, and everything is drying up, and it's on the verge of dying. So we get back, and that very first night, I go out to the garden at night, and I water everything. I water so much on that garden. And I wake up, and I look there the next morning, it's completely dry. It looks like I didn't even do anything, because it looks like it's still dying. And it's really easy to get discouraged when you are trying to let Jesus guide your life for the first time, or you are trying to make changes in specific ways in your relationship with Jesus. It's really easy to get discouraged. Man, I've been trying this Jesus thing. I've been trying to change how I act, how I talk to my kids. It just doesn't feel like anything's happening. I just don't think anything's getting anywhere. See, we're expecting microwave results in a crockpot world. Change is hard, and Jesus guiding your life doesn't happen overnight. And Jesus, I did what I was supposed to do. I gave it a shot. I listened to what Curtis said in the sermon. I tried, and it's not working. I guess maybe you're not who you say you are. And it's really easy to give up in that moment. It's not that it didn't work, it's that we give up too soon. Water the plants in your life every day. Go back to the root that is Jesus, the Bible, prayer, being here, and slowly, little by little, the fruit in your life will start to change. Jesus is not an Instapot genie, and it is foolish to expect microwave results in your life that have been slow cooking for years. This is why the Bible speaks about anger in a wise versus foolish nature. No matter if you feel like your anger is justified or not, unchecked anger becomes a fire that will consume you. Paul talks about this in the book of Ephesians. This comes from chapter 4, verses 26 and 27. Don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. I really love this Bible. I don't know if you can see, but it is slowly starting to fall apart. But it has the text on the left side and a blank page on the right side so that I can take notes. And about those verses that we just read about anger, on July 20th, 2015, I wrote, wow, these words take on a new meaning being in a love relationship. Rachel makes me so angry, I go batty sometimes, and vice versa. All you want to do is be mad. It is not natural to want to work it out. But it is Jesus in you that overcomes the desire to be mad. Satan wins when we stay mad at each other. That was a whole 16 days into our marriage relationship, so the good times lasted for a really long time, as you can see. But I've learned a lot about myself when it comes to anger. And eventually, it gets to a point to where I just want to feel justified. Because if I feel justified, then it's her fault. It's their fault, not mine. And my justification can turn my anger into a crutch within the storms of my life. I have learned about the Bible. I'm a preacher's kid. I have learned about the Bible since I was 2 days old. I know what the Bible has to say about anger. I've been in church for a very long time. All of that is to say that I am out of excuses at this point in my life, and I can't blame anger anymore. I'm at the point where not growing is saying, I don't want to do the hard thing. I just want to stay stuck. And my storm, which is my anger, becomes an excuse not to grow. See, sometimes the circumstances don't hold a candle to the storm that is within you. And at some point, I am at that point, the storm within you becomes a crutch to not grow or something that you deal with Jesus. So what do we do when we have screwed up? We have all been there. We vented our anger in inappropriate and foolish ways. What do? The way that we respond when we have messed up largely determines what happens next. If you're familiar with the story of this guy named Peter in the Bible, one of Jesus' disciples, one of his closest friends, and Peter's like, Jesus, I'm never going to deny you no matter what people say. And then one time and two times and three times, he vehemently denies Jesus and calls down curses upon himself that he doesn't know this dude. And the next time that we're introduced to Peter, he went back to his old life. He did what he did before he met Jesus. He was fishing and he was in a boat. Usually when we screw up and make foolish decisions, we go back to old habits, whether for good or for bad. And what we do, the way we respond when we have messed up, largely determines what happens next. And so the big application point there is, if you have blown it, own it. Think about your life this week. Who has gotten your anger? Who have you been too frustrated with? Who do you need to apologize to? There's power in the words. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I hope that you can forgive me. Avoiding those words compounds the shame that we feel because of our anger. So don't dig a deeper hole by avoiding the wise response. Release yourself from the feeling of shame. Admit that you are wrong. Seek forgiveness. Think about a relationship that is smoldering, either because you lit a fire with your anger or because in your anger you're now avoiding that relationship and it is beginning to die. Own up to your anger and make that right this week. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me. When that happens, we move from reaction to reflection. The shame that we feel because of our anger is a reaction that causes us to be more withdrawn and to avoid those around us. Owning up to your anger naturally brings about a state of reflection and hopefully a desire to improve. This helps you move from self-protection, which is rooted in selfish desires, to a place of selflessness and wanting wisdom in your life. The anger explosion produces shame, which keeps the focus on you, when in reality, if we move to a point of reflection, then Jesus can begin to heal and work in those relationships. As we begin to wrap up this morning, I want to end with a story. Fun fact about me, it's a cool party fact. I have a master's in storytelling. It is a real degree that actually exists. There's only one place in America that you can do it. I love stories. So, a few nights ago, 3:30 in the morning, our oldest is 9 years old, and she comes to me because there is a storm outside. Lots of thunder and lightning lately, and so there's a storm outside. She says, I can't sleep. I'm a little bit scared. And I say, hey, just take my spot in the bed, and I'll go somewhere else. So I go somewhere else. I'm trying to fall back asleep when all of a sudden I hear the loudest explosion I have heard in my life. It shook my body. It was so loud. And so we rush to check on the kids. We check on each other. And my wife's like, I think lightning just struck the house. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the dad thing. And I'm going to go look outside at the storm because, I can control this, obviously. So I go look outside at the storm. And I'm like, well, the trees aren't moving. So I think we're fine. Everybody go back to bed. And we wake up to a huge surprise. The explosion wasn't our house, but it was our tree in the backyard. 75-foot tall pine tree shattered, split right down the middle. 80,000 pounds just exploded in our backyard. And I kept this little piece of the tree, a little splinter, as a reminder of the power of what happened in the middle of the night. And that day, as we were clearing it out and getting rid of all of the downed tree, I talked to more neighbors that one day that I had like the previous 5 years combined. Everybody wanted to stop. They were staring. They wanted to talk. They wanted to know what happened. The nosy neighbors were everywhere. I had this dude. He literally stopped 4 different times and kept telling me about the tree that was down in my backyard. And I was like, dude, I know. I'm throwing it on the trailer and getting it out of here. Everybody wanted to be in the know. It was a scene that caused an explosion. And lightning strikes and anger explosions can start to sound pretty similar. It causes a commotion. People are going to want to know what happened. You might feel justified. And for a little while, you might even be the center of attention. Do you know what the funny thing is about all those people who wanted to be in the story? When it came time to clean up 80,000 pounds, they were back in their homes. And in your life, when you have made a mess of your life because of your anger, like this little piece of wood, when anger shatters and destroys, when it fragments and explodes, you may feel all alone. But Jesus is there with you in the midst of your storm. And he can take the fragments and he can handle the explosion and make something beautiful out of it if we let him. If you've blown it, own it. Apologize for yourself and for the people around you. Let Jesus help you in the midst of that storm and let him bring you peace. This unresolved will continue to rot in your life, in your relationships, until we take these things to Jesus and allow him to transform our life. Let's pray. God, we love you. God, I thank you for the stories and the lessons that come from a tree that explodes right outside the house. A reminder of your power, a reminder of your protection. And God, when we cause those lightning strikes in our own life, when anger gets the best of us, when life shatters and destroys and fragments, you are there. Psalm 68:19, you daily bear our burdens. You get it. You understand. You want to take that burden and transform our life for the betterment of ourselves and the people around us. So God, in our anger in big ways and in little ways, let us turn over a new page this week and begin to give that over to you and allow that transformation to be complete little by little so that the root changes and the fruit of our life changes because you are at the center. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.